Hi guys, I'm Zane Schmahl. This is the Trans Baviaans podcast show. We are bringing you the never-ending story. This is the never-ender, right here behind us, and you've come from those mountains in the back there all the way through, and this is not quite your last obstacle, Harold. There's still a little climb, two little climbs towards the end, Minimac and WTF, but the never-ending story. And Harold's going to give you a bit more stats on the climb, but also I'm going to run through support drivers, how important of a role that plays in this event, and also time spent in checkpoints. If you're chasing a bit of a time in this event, it's an important little factor to work in.
Yeah.
But Harold, just tell us a bit more, what's the stats on this little climb? It's actually quite small.
Well, the good news, Zane, is you probably won't see most of it, because most of us will be here in the dark. The other aspect is just under 13 kilometers long, but it is a gradual gradient of 3% on average. So it's manageable, but again, remember you are probably close to 180, 185 Ks into the race now, and you'll hit this probably in the dark. So it's going to seem like the never ender because you can't actually see the top. So keep an eye on your distance, your mileage that you've covered. And obviously the other aspect to this is we've talked a lot about climbs. From the start through to Mac and all the rest of them, and it comes down to incorporating climbing into your training. That's a quite important part. And the general guideline, if you want to do a climbing session or a climbing workout, would be to try and cover 200 meters of ascent per hour in a session. So if you've got your long slow ride of 4 hours in length, you want to try and do 250 meters an hour, so about 1,000 meters of climbing in a session like that. And it's not about going as hard as possible up those climbs, it's finding a steady rhythm, but get used to climbing, because this race is almost 3,000 meters of climbing, as we've said not multiple times already.
Yeah, and it's that's the only way to train, is to train the hills, to be able to ride the never ender up here. Guys, then I think what I want to address is checkpoint time. So, and that goes along with the support driver. So the support driver is a unique part of the event in a unique way of how our event works. The support driver forms part of the race. He also gets a race number, a board, you get a sticker, and you get your own set of rules as a support driver that you need to adhere to and need to follow through to make sure your team don't get disqualified, because actually teams can get disqualified if the support driver doesn't follow the rules. So support driver is not just baking cakes and sitting next to the road and waiting for them and waving goodbye. It's actually, you've got a job to do. You're part of the race. You need to look after your athletes in the checkpoints, help them with some bike maintenance, maybe provide some food, give them the encouragement that they need to carry on. And you need to check, so just a quick rundown on what you need to do. If you commit as a support driver, you need to check in at checkpoint 5, you need to check in at checkpoint 7, and you need to check in at checkpoints at the finish. That's the 3 points where you need to go. You need to check in, you need to get your stamp on the board, and you need to follow through with this whole system. Even though you don't expect to, even if you don't want to support your team at checkpoint 7, you still just need to go in, get your sticker, and go back out. Support drivers, we don't try and make their lives difficult, but we've had instances where drivers have not adhered to rules and things, and it makes it unpleasant for everybody else. So we have these sets of rules for a reason. It's been accumulated over the years. And one important thing is, this is the never ender, and you're not allowed on this road. As a support driver, you should not be driving any of the roads that the cyclists are on. And it's a very important element. It's not about not allowing you to be here, but you're making it not a nice experience for our riders. It's on the gravel, you're kicking up dust, and it's actually a dangerous thing at night as well. Along with that, checkpoint 5 is a famous spot for spending over too much time in the checkpoint. It's the first point that you see your support driver and family, or whoever you've chosen to be your support driver, and you arrive at that checkpoint. There's normally a nice fire going, there's a good vibe because everybody's excited to see you. You sit down in those chairs next to the fire and you never get up. It's a big thing, so just remind yourself that when you go into a checkpoint, try and do what you need to do. I'm not saying don't take your break, don't take your rest, but do what you need to do and be on a schedule to try and get out of there again. Otherwise, it's happened numerous times to different athletes. Is after the race they look at their stats and they see, oh, we spent over 2 hours in our checkpoint. We could have cut almost an hour off our overall race time just because of that time spent in checkpoints.
Yeah, and it's just 5-10 minutes extra in each checkpoint eventually adds up, and yeah, adds to your race time at the end of the day. But again, I think one must emphasize that the checkpoints are important. You need to refeed. You need to get the support to finish the race, but don't spend too much time there. As you mentioned, the fires are, if it's nice and cold and it's a bit chilly and you sit next to a fire and then all of a sudden you're back on the bike and you start freezing. So it's never a good idea to spend too much time there. Get what you need and move on.
Yeah, and I think it's not that we want to rush you through. You can stay there all night, but it's about trying to make sure you actually finish this race and get to the finish.
Yeah, keep going.
I think this was a short and sweet episode 9 of the Trans podcast on the never ending story. And I think we're going to move on to Jeffreys Bay, that side. I think we've been in the Baviaans Kloof for a couple of days now and looking forward to seeing the ocean, maybe a swim or a surf.
Yep, that sounds good. Thanks
Cheers,
for
guys.
joining us.